right, I bring you Bruce Arnold, who's a fanatic about Linux and Ubuntu, and he's going to bring us up to date on the latest release of Ubuntu, and he's going to do a live demo.
Hi, welcome everybody. I've been waiting, I don't know, long time, 6 months or whatever, to tell you all about Ubuntu. Ubuntu is a Linux variety, and I guess the question might be, why do I care? What's in it for me, or why am I doing anything with Ubuntu or Linux? There are generally a few different types of users of computers. There's one type which is easily identified as the type my wife is. She has a computer that she uses for email, for browsing, and occasionally for writing longer letters. If she wants to write a 2-page letter to her cousin in Kentucky, she looks for a word processor to do that, because a 2-page letter in an email is kind of awkward. It can be done, but it's easier to use a word processor. So you've got word processing. You've got browsing the web. Now, browsing the web means, of course, just what it sounds like, browsing the web. But it means going to Facebook, or going to a YouTube, or going to a variety of other sources, going to different department stores that have their own websites. She does not, and I shouldn't use the phrase "she" here, because this really applies to probably at least a third of the population, men and women. They don't want to be involved in technical things. They just want a computer that they turn the switch on, the computer comes up, and away they go. They don't want to be bothered with a lot of techie type things. So that's one category of human being that could be using a computer, and could also be using a Linux variety such as Ubuntu. Second type is the other extreme, someone that is extremely technically oriented, that has followed the development of computers since before Microsoft, in some cases. Not only do these people want a computer that can work, but they want a computer that they can modify, that they can look into the bells and whistles of the computer, look into the underlying programs that are in the computer, that they can add programs, subtract programs, and modify the system. You have that type of individual. So let's call one extreme the techie person, might be called a techie, and on the other extreme is the non-techie. And then you have, that's a third, and then you have a third in the middle that kind of combine the characteristics of both. First of all, they want a practical computer that they can use to get some work done. Mostly, I think the most common use of computers is email and the internet. But they don't want to be bothered with a computer that requires a lot of care, a lot of babying. They just want a reliable computer. But on the other hand, those people are willing to get involved in some sort of technical issue if it only corresponds to a relatively minor part of their time. Let's say 5 or 10% of their time. they're intelligent enough that they don't mind reading a little book or reading a help screen or looking at the manual in the computer. But they don't want to make an occupation out of it. They don't want to spend 90% of their time doing it like a techie might. They just want to get over a problem. For example, if there's a particular problem on the computer, maybe they'll Google that problem and get some suggestions, and they have enough patience for the first 15 minutes at least. They have enough patience to follow some of those suggestions and see if it solves their problem. So that's the third category. And I think we probably have a mix in this audience of all three types of people. And as we go along here, feel free to raise any questions. Probably half of the questions I'm going to ask or I'm going to receive are questions that I hope to talk about, so I may delay answering the questions. But for the most part, that's a little background. A little more background is if you haven't heard about Ubuntu or if you haven't heard of Linux, perhaps some of you have heard about Unix. Back in the 70s and 80s, Bell Labs created an operating system for large computers, and computers that in some cases filled this room, would have filled this room, and that was called Unix. Well, some of the guys from Bell Labs decided they would like to have that kind of an operating system in their home, but they couldn't take the Bell Labs version of it in their home for several reasons. The most important reason is that there was the lawyers would get involved because Bell Labs had copyrighted the software, so they couldn't take it out off the factory premises. So a few of the smarter guys decided to build their own programming code to create something called Linux. And one of the key members of the team that did that was a man called, and still called, his name is Linus Torvalds. And they took the Linus Torvalds and they kind of moved the letters around and created a general category of Linux. And Linux is a lookalike to Unix, but it's totally free. Anybody can use it in their home. Anybody can get a copy of it. You can, you ask Microsoft for a copy of their software, they'll say, oh, sure, just send us a check for $150 and we'll give you the software. And you can use it only on one machine, although there's some variation on that. Sometimes you're allowed to use it on two machines. But generally, it's a limited, very, very limited number of machines, whereas if you get a copy of Linux or of Ubuntu, you can put it on 10 machines if you want. You can put it on 100 machines. Anything, it's your copy to do with what you want. And it's completely free. So that's a terrific advantage. And I'm going to be describing this. We're actually running a version of Linux right now that's called Ubuntu 18.04. The 18 is the year. So this is 2018, and the 04 means it came out April of the year. So you'll see lots of versions of Ubuntu out there. If you do a Google on it, you might find references to version 17.04, 17.10. You might even find, going back, you might find people that are still using version 12, 12.04, 12.10. They usually come out in April and in October, so you get numbers like 04 or .10 for April or October. There are generally two versions of it. in the case of Ubuntu, there are two versions. There's a standard version and a long-term release. The long-term release version is guaranteed to be updatable over the next 5 years. And that's what's special about 1804. 1804 is an LTS version. Let's see if I can scroll a little bit. There we go. And this, by the way, this is has the nickname Bionic Beaver. You will find that all of the Ubuntus have a kind of a tricky name. The name involves some sort of adjective and some sort of animal. And as you look through this, you might find the previous version. We're at B, Bionic B, as in alphabetical. The previous version was something like Advanced Aardvark, and the next version is going to be, who knows, maybe it's probably going to be Cougar or something, but I don't know what the adjective will be. They have to come up with an adjective that starts with the letters C. So they keep going like that. So as you go back in, again, you'll see versions like 12.10, but then someone will show the name, and the name will be some ridiculous thing that has starts with an adjective Q and a noun Q. Anyone interested in Scrabble would probably enjoy all these names. So anyway, this is the LTS with 5 years support. And, you're not going to get a letter from Ubuntu like you got a letter from Microsoft saying, we're going to be discontinuing your version of Windows XP or Windows 95 or Windows Vista, and soon to come Windows 7. We're going to be expiring these, and your best bet is to buy a new computer. So you're not going to be getting letters like that from Linux. So it's lots of support and free. Those are the main categories. A couple other things. Ubuntu, in addition to doing most of the things that Microsoft Windows does, it'll also run on most machines. And I go into details on this handout. By the way, this handout, probably got enough handouts here for everybody. But if you want a copy of it, we're going to post it somehow to our website. If you don't feel like carrying some paper around with you, you can. I've got it up on a website here. It's called a tiny URL. In fact, there it is. All set. Tiny URL. Ubuntu.by Arnold. And this will take you to the site that has this copy. And it's a PDF file, things I like about Ubuntu. So if you just write that down right now, it's just Ubuntu by Arnold, and probably it matters if it's capitalized the way it's shown. I started to say this will run on most machines. You may have to investigate what type of machine you have if you want to run it. Most machines will run this version of Ubuntu 1804. Most machines from about Vista on will probably run it adequately, depending upon your memory, and I discussed that handout. If you have a really old machine, for example, like an XP machine, you probably want to pick a different version rather than this particular one, and I discussed that in the handout, and we'll talk about that in a few minutes. The point is that there are versions around. In fact, there are versions around that will run on tablets. There's a few versions that run on tablets. There are some versions that they're creating for cell phones. So there's lots of things happening in the industry. Let me just give you an idea of what this looks like, and then we'll get into some of the details. First of all, I'm in a browser. I'm in Firefox. Actually, I've jumped the gun because I got to explain to you how you get to see this in your own home. The best way is to totally get rid of Microsoft, the Microsoft product. So, for example, if you've bought a new computer and you've got an old computer sitting in the corner collecting dust, that's a good candidate for putting Ubuntu on it. You will hear people talk about dual booting, where you have both Microsoft Windows and Ubuntu on the same machine. I don't recommend it. What I recommend is you completely erasing any semblance of Microsoft from the machine and putting Ubuntu on. That'll give you the smoothest install process and the least chance of errors. Now, where do you get it? What you can do? What question, John?
Can you keep all your files still on that machine? All your data files?
Generally, no. It would be very tricky to do that. But the strategy would be to back up all your files, remove your files to a USB stick, for example, or to a little portable hard drive. Put all your files there, install Ubuntu, and then copy all your files back.
So are you saying do a format of the disk?
Yeah, you want Ubuntu to format the entire disk drive. Another way, which I recommend even better, since a lot of people are a little squeamish about formatting their Windows drive, and I recommend that you just buy another drive. This is what a hard drive looks like. Well, this is what's in most computers. If you open it, don't open it up. But if you did open it up, this is what's inside. There's a little record player inside that keeps all your data. It's a little spinning disk, and there's a little arm here that swings back and forth, and with a magnetic head on, which is kind of like the magnetic head that you might have had on your record player. Does anybody remember what a record player is? Actually, the kids are really gung-ho on the record players these days. You go down to Phillipsburg Mall, which is half empty, but you go in the record store, they call it a vinyl store now. You go into the vinyl store, and it's packed with people buying old records, buying and selling records. Anyway, you can buy a used hard drive for about $20 on eBay. You can buy a brand new one for about $40 at Best Buy, and it takes you 5 minutes to change this in your computer. So you just open the computer up, which requires a screwdriver generally. You open the screwdriver up, and there's two wires that are plugged into this. You pull the wires out, and then all your data is safe. It's there permanently. You're not messing with your data. And you plug in the new hard drive, which is totally empty, and then you install Ubuntu on it. Question?
How compatible are they with, different years hard drive? I mean, different computers, are there several different styles of hard drives, or are they all pretty much compatible?
Well, physically, this is called a SATA, S-A-T-A, which stands for Serial ATA Interface.
Right.
And most computers made in the past 6 or 7 years have this inside. And they have standard connectors, and they just plug in and plug out.
Okay.
It's a power connector and a data connector.
If you were to do exactly what you said, you put in the blank disk, you turn on the computer, will BIOS recognize it and will it enable you to get on to the internet to download Ubuntu?
No. No, if you put in a brand new empty hard drive into the computer and you turn the power on, the computer will just sit there looking at you with a blank screen, generally. What you need a copy of Ubuntu. And we discuss in the handout how to get that copy, but just generally what you do is you go to Ubuntu, and click the desktop button. You might spend some time reading all about it. It's a very nice website. Hit the desktop and oops, I'm sorry. We can hit downloads, desktop, and here they talk about 1804, and you just click the download button, and what it will do, it will download the information that you can imagine is on that Microsoft disk that was used to install your machine. Of course, you don't have that disk, the factory has it. But in this case, it downloads typically a 1.5 gigabyte file, which is an ISO file, that can be used to make a CD-ROM, or rather a DVD-ROM. And by the way, while we're talking about this here, it lists the recommended requirements for the machine. Now, if you don't want to fool around with DVD drives, or if, for example, you're loading this on a laptop that doesn't even have a DVD drive, you can take that same ISO file and you can make a little memory stick. This has Ubuntu on it. This has that same 1.5 gigabyte file. I got a couple of them here. A little memory stick that you buy for $10. You can put the software on this. Then, when you put this in the machine with that empty hard drive, it'll boot into the setup procedure for Ubuntu, and a half hour later you'll have Ubuntu running full blast on your computer.
One comment, not all the notebooks are able to boot from the USB drive. I found that out.
Really?
Yeah. One of Karen's old machines, notebook died, the hard drive died, so I put a new one in, and I ended up having to write it on a DVD.
Yeah, okay. I guess that could be possible. I had an old Lenovo computer with an old BIOS in it. That's kind of a technical subject, but it had an old BIOS number in it, and it had the same situation. It didn't read wouldn't read a USB stick on boot up. But when I updated the BIOS from the factory website, then everything worked. So yeah, the backup position is to use a real CD. Now, if you don't have a CD or DVD, when I say CD, I'm using the term loosely, but I'm really referring always to a DVD, because these are 1.5 gigabyte files, and they won't fit on an actual CD, they'll fit on a DVD. You can also buy, if you're in the mood for buying things, you can buy an external DVD drive that plugs into a USB port, and so that you can still do it from a DVD, but through the USB port. A couple alternatives, and those are all discussed on their website, and I've tried to boil the information down into a more concise form on the handout. When you put the either the CD or the DVD, when you put that in the machine, or when you use the USB stick, this is what you should see when it boots up. You should just see this little screen here. Let me use the pointer. This screen comes up when you boot. And you have two buttons here. You have a button that says Try Ubuntu and another button that says Install Ubuntu. If you hit the Try Ubuntu, it will install Ubuntu into memory and it won't affect the hard drive in the least. So you can do this on any Windows machine without affecting Windows. That doesn't, let's see what it says. It's a little hard to read here. It says you can try Ubuntu without making any changes to your computer directly from the CD. That's if you click this one. Or if you're ready, you can install Ubuntu alongside of or instead of your current operating system. That shouldn't take too long. So you have two choices.
When you say try it, does it go into the RAM?
Yes. It goes into the RAM. And this is something that you can do. Maybe if we have time, I'll try to demonstrate it a little later. You can walk over to any computer, any IBM computer, take the Ubuntu memory stick. In fact, this is a little when it comes to security, but let me just say it anyway. You can walk over to the machine, plug this in, and boot off it, and then look at the files on the hard drive. Read the files, copy the files, print the files, do anything you want.
I mean the Windows files.
The Windows files. Yeah. So if you have a Windows computer that won't boot, and you've got pictures of your family or memos or data files that are important to you, and you want to get at them, you can get at them with a Ubuntu stick. And if you plug the Ubuntu stick into one USB port or into the CD drive tray, and you plug an external hard drive into another USB, no, I didn't say that right. Yes, I did. If you take a one of these little hard drives that you plug into USB ports that they sell at Walmart for $75 that hold a terabyte of information. You can plug that into the other USB port, and you can copy your whole hard drive that you couldn't boot. You can copy that whole hard drive off onto the external hard drive, and then you have a complete record.
On booting my file, I have to type in a security code. Will this circumvent that security code that I have to type in?
What file?
Okay, in booting Windows, okay, I have to type in a code.
Yeah, but completely bypasses that.
And this will circumvent that?
Yes.
So I can download my files and everything else, even though it has a security code that I would type in normally to access Windows?
Yep.
Because you're bypassing Windows.
You're totally bypassing Windows. Now, there is an exception. Some of the more modern machines have a new security BIOS, which in that case you can't bypass it. But if you step back a few years, everything I'm saying is true. If you have one of these new modern machines that has an updated security BIOS, then you're in trouble.
Just gave the finger to Windows security.
Whether there's a way around that, I'm not sure. You'd have to Google it.
Okay.
The chances are very good that in the Linux community there's a workaround. Let me just, as long as I'm here on this screen, there are some cautions here that could be important to you. Every now and then you run into a computer that gives you some problems. And these are some of the reported problems. AMD graphics, Wi-Fi, and old printers are two categories, or three categories that come to mind. If you have a special or a unique AMD graphics in a laptop, for example, if you buy a laptop from Walmart, they generally have AMD graphics because they're cheaper. You may need to look for either a different version of Ubuntu or a different driver for your graphics. I've never run into that problem myself, but I know it exists. This problem, the Wi-Fi, this is a little annoying problem. Some machines that I've tried this on, everything works perfectly, except you can't get on the network because the proper network driver isn't in the machine. And the solution is to borrow a pluggable network card, which is typically about the same size as this, that has all the information on it, that has all the network electronics on it. Plug that into your machine, which lets you get on the internet, and then see here. In other words, borrow one of these little Wi-Fi dongles that you can probably buy for $20 or $30. But if you know someone that has it, you just borrow it just so you can search the internet and get the right driver for your machine. Another possibility is to try a different Linux distribution, and that's what we're going to get into next. Try a different distribution, and finally the last possibility is a technical note that I've got further up in the handout. So what does that mean, Linux distribution? Oh, well, think of it as Microsoft distributions. If you go to Microsoft and you say, I want an operating system, they'll say, well, here you are, here we have Windows. And you ask, well, what choices do I have? And they say, well, here you are, we have Windows. There's generally one choice unless you're in business and you might want to get the business version. With Linux, there are lots of choices, and some of them are shown on this website, Distrowatch. So if we go to Distrowatch, here are some of the choices. And here are some of the latest distributions alongside here. Here are I think this is the top 100 distributions. You have approximately, this is the top 100 distributions of Linux. And if we look at the very top here, Manjaro is number one this week. This changes weekly. Manjaro is number one. Mint is number two, and Ubuntu is number three. So, and they go four. So if you just wanted to play with the top three most popular versions, you got Manjaro, Mint, or Ubuntu. So if you don't like what you see today, pick a different one. In fact, go through all 100 and see what you like, because they all work a little differently. The desktops look differently. The command structure Some of the applications are different. There's a distribution. In fact, Juan and I were talking about this indirectly a few weeks ago. There's a distribution designed for people that are heavy into video, creating videos, like training videos and YouTube videos and teaching, documentation, and so forth. There's a version of Linux designed just for that, and automatically comes with a lot of the accessories you need to do those things. There are versions of Linux designed for education. I see this one here, elementary. I have no idea what the word means. I might refer to elementary school, or it might regarding something else. You can just click on any of these, and it'll give you a little description. Let's see what it's all about. First of all, here's a picture of what it looks like. Elementary OS is a Unix-based desktop distribution. Custom apps, photos, music, videos, calendar. No, I still don't really understand what it is. But since all you need generally is a USB stick and a machine that you can play on, and maybe you've gone out and you've bought a completely blank hard drive that you can use, you can really knock yourself out. Now, I guess now I'm talking to the third of you that are techies. If you, in the case of my wife, who's been using Linux or Ubuntu for the past 5 years, I guess, she doesn't know anything about this. And once a month, she may call me with a question on it. But most of the time, the machine just runs by itself. So that's Distrowatch, where you can learn about 100 different versions, and I'm only going to be talking about one today. I'm going to be talking about this number 3 here, Ubuntu. In my experience, Ubuntu and Mint are really the top ones. So.
Could you put them both on the same USB drive?
Generally, no. If you're a real techie, you can figure out a way of doing it, but it takes. If you have them both, actually, I do have them both. Let's see. I've got 1804, and I've got Mint. Yeah, there we go. There are the two operating systems. 1804 is on one and Mint is on the other. You can run both of them without touching your hard drives. They'll boot. When they boot off the USB stick, it takes a little longer to boot. Probably take about 5 minutes to boot this up. So you can put it on, boot it up, and experiment with it. Turn the machine off, put the other one on. 5 minutes later, you're experimenting with it. That's how long these things take. Lon?
So I'd assume with the USB, you could put applications on it too to try.
Yes.
And it would save your settings.
Yeah, we were talking about that. We were talking about that earlier. That's slightly more advanced. The way you create a USB stick is you download the CD image, which is the ISO image, and then there's a utility for creating the for burning or for generating the USB stick from the ISO. And if you use the Ubuntu version of that, there is a checkbox that says, do you want to create local storage on your USB stick? And it says, how much can you? And you can set up 5 gigabytes or 1 gigabyte, whatever you want, you can set it up on here. The disadvantage to using the stick is that it's about 10 times slower than using your hard drive. So you'll very quickly get frustrated, and you'll want to go to this approach. Now, if you can also create these USB sticks in a Windows environment, and there's a procedure on the website, which I point to in the handout, and there's a procedure for doing that in a Windows environment. I don't know if the Windows environment will create that extra storage space. You'll have to check that out. I haven't actually tried that.
Bruce,
Yeah.
Windows has, I don't know which version, probably going back to 7. They have provided limited capability so you can actually invoke Bash within Windows and work in a Linux environment. But then again, it's not as wide as, it doesn't cover everything.
Now that is just in a textual basis, like Notepad.
Yeah, it becomes frustrating at some point.
I'm glad you mentioned that. It's interesting how these two operating systems are starting to overlap a little bit, because there is such a multitude of people that use Linux right now. So there's a lot of commonality. In fact, probably half of the engineers at Microsoft use Linux as well. There's some overlap with some of the programs, and in fact, Microsoft just recently released an announcement that for their new IoT program, the latest Microsoft IoT program, which that was, I think, slide 10 that Ron talked about, the Internet of Things. And Microsoft has come out with a Linux-based operating system for their IoT devices. So it's really getting very gray as far as how these things interconnect.
Is there a virus program that's available for that? And are there automatic updates or anything of that nature?
The Linux such as this will, in fact, I think I have one waiting. Can't show it. I did see the message. Yeah, there are updates. You'll get updates probably once a week or so if you want. And I make a point to. Well, for example, on my wife's machine, I make a point to go through the updates at least once a month. It usually takes about 5 minutes. There are regular updates. As far as viruses are concerned, generally speaking, Linux is not susceptible to viruses, and you do not need virus software. Now, if you look in Google, you'll find that I think Norton has come out with a Linux version. I have heard absolutely nothing about it as far as people using it. I've been working with Linux for at least 20 years, and I have never had to use a virus program, and I've never gotten a virus in 20 years, and I've done this on dozens of computers.
How about firewall?
Same problem. I mean, same.
No one tries to attack?
No one tries to attack. The Linux comes with a very good firewall, but they don't turn it on because they don't recognize the problem. There doesn't seem to be a problem. If you were really involved in security, you could turn. If the firewall is in there, you can turn it on if you want, but it's a very sophisticated subject. But security, it's in my opinion, it's the safest operating system in the world. Now, there's two reasons for that. First of all, Linux, look at all these distributions. there are thousands of programmers designing this software. And software is a public domain. You can download the source to this program. I don't think you want to because it's about 1 million lines of source code, but there are people that do download pieces of the source and look at it and they say, hey, wait a minute, there's a security bug here. Let's fix it. So because it's public domain and you have the public looking at it, these things tend to get corrected very, very rapidly. As opposed to Microsoft, there's no way you can look at the source code for Microsoft. So let's just give you a general run through of the system. This is the way mine boots up. As in Windows, you can select the picture that you might see on your desktop. We can change the background, and you've got lots of choices in different backgrounds. You can, you can put anything you want here. So now I have a different background. This is a new feature in 1804. You can put all the icons on the bottom, or you may have seen pictures where the icons are on the left side. That's an option. You can move these things around. You can change the size of the icons. Those are one of the things that comes with 1804. Anybody that has a smartphone should recognize this. This is the trigger for showing your applications, just like on a smartphone. This is new. If we click on this, up pops the applications that are installed, and we've got 2 pages of them. And these are sorted in terms of all or in terms of frequent. So these are the ones that I've used recently. I've used Firefox, I've used Settings, System. This is the software update. In fact, here, let's just show you how you update this. You click on Update, and it comes back here, and it says checking for updates. And I expect it's going to say something to me here. Oh, there we go. No, didn't need any updates. That's all there is to it. If we go back here, disks, if I want to look at what disks I have on the computer, there's just one disk, and it's broken up into a few partitions, and you don't have to get involved in this at all. This is all created automatically when you install the computer. This is why I said I don't recommend dual booting. If you want to dual boot the machine, you do have to intelligently provide places to put the Windows partition. And you do get involved in this. But if you forget about that, if you work on a blank hard drive, you don't have to worry about it. This is a very nice program here. The system monitor. And this is sort of like the task manager in Windows. And here you can see the capability of the computer. I've got 2 CPUs. It's a dual core processor. So it shows up as 2 CPUs. Memory, in this case, I've got 3.3 gigabytes of memory, and I'm using about half of it right now. So we're sitting here at a little more than 50%. And if I run out of memory, I can swap out. I've got some swap space that's automatically created. I can look at the network, what's happening with the network, and nothing at the moment. If I if I tried to play some music off the network, or if I did a speed test or something, you'd see this bounce up here to something. It also shows you how fast your network is going, but so you don't even need speed test if you don't want it to. As with Task Manager, these are some of the things that are running in the computer. Most of the things say 0 CPU, which means that the computer is hardly doing anything at the moment. Settings. Settings are really kind of like Windows settings. You got things like Wi-Fi. I'm connected to the hospital here. Dock. I can change the icon size and the position of the screen. So here, I've got it bottom. I could put it on the left side or the right side. And there's a whole bunch of things. Power. I have it set so that it never blanks the screen. When I'm home, I might have this set at 15 minutes. But we'll leave it at never. Devices, keyboard, mouse, printers, so forth. These screens that we're looking at here for settings, this is all new to 1804, and I think they've made it a lot clearer than it was on the older versions. Nightline is something new. This is appearing on a lot of different computers, Microsoft as well. They make the machine, they make the screen whiter, or in some context bluer in the daytime, and then they make it more red at night, and they say it's easier on your eyes. That's just an opinion. You'll have to try it yourself. If we look at some of the other things, if we look at all the applications, now these are the applications that come with the operating system when you download the image from the website. And you got a calculator, a calendar, a photo application. That's what this cheese is. Files, a file manager. This file manager should be very familiar to most people. There we go. It's the file manager. It's broken up into pictures and desktop and documents. Let's see. And not too great on pictures. I've taken a couple screenshots. It's just a screenshot from a website. Music. We play some music if we wanted. I don't have it plugged in, so I'm not going to demonstrate that. But that's how easy it is to play music. Downloads, anything you download. There's a couple programs that I downloaded. Or in fact, this is another version of Linux called I don't know how they pronounce that. Anyway, it's a very small version of Linux. I was looking for something that would fit on an actual CD, and this one's only 589 megabytes. So you can actually set up Linux on a CD and plug it into an older computer. So that's the file manager. What else we have? File manager, Firefox. You can also install Chrome. It takes about 5 minutes to install Chrome. If you like Chrome better. Languages, LibreOffice. You can.
OpenOffice?
It's the same. It's the same as. In fact, I've heard some people say it's exactly the same. I'm not sure. but it's pretty close. Here, LibreOffice, let me bring something up. I don't know which one I hit there. Select a template. Oh, this is obviously the wrong one.
Slideshow. PowerPoint.
Okay. So this is the PowerPoint equivalent. And this is compatible with Microsoft's PowerPoint. I wanted to bring up Word. How about that one? Maybe?
Yeah.
There we go. So, oh. This is awful. Can't find my hands here.
Can you convert your Office files over to Libre?
Pardon?
Can you convert your Office files over to Libre?
You don't have to convert it. They just work.
Oh, they just work, okay.
The standard's the same. This creates a, I don't know what it converts. Let's find out what it converts, what it does. If we do,
Transfer
Delete
files.
I don't know, I guess. Same format.
Bruce, can you transfer Libre files back into Office?
yep, they go both ways.
Does it distort it in some way, like for the registration off?
They're almost perfect. My son used to teach history at the high school here, and he used to do all his lectures on LibreOffice, and then bring them into school where they had Microsoft Office. And the only error that he found was in the PowerPoint equivalent. When he was doing a slideshow, the timing from slide to slide varied a little bit. You know, when he had an automatic slideshow, you know, if he set it at 5 seconds, maybe it became 10 seconds or something like that. But he had no problem with the word processor part. So here we've created a document. If I save this, save, and we're going to call this now is the time. If we just save it, and then we'll close this. Oh, speaking of that, well, I'll show you in a minute. Bring up the file manager again, and under documents, there's the document, and it's an ODT. Microsoft accepts ODT, so you don't have to convert anything. And vice versa, if you get a DOC or a DOCX file, they both handle it.
How do you create a new folder?
You do a right click and say new folder. Can I do that? I'm not sure I can do that. Let's see. Yeah, it accepted that. I didn't know if it accepted the dots. I don't think Microsoft will accept the dots. And if you want to edit this file again, you can go into OpenOffice or LibreOffice. You go up here, File, Open, or Recent Documents is easier. Now is the time. And there it's back again. This is new. Notice some people find this extremely important. Notice that the minus sign for minimize, the middle one for changing to normalize or maximize, and the top one for closing, These are in the right upper corner. They were never in the upper right corner. And of course, that's where they are in Windows. So they made this change so that people would stop complaining about that. So I'm just going to hit the X there. I could also go into File Manager, Documents, just double click on this, and immediately Libreoffice comes up, and there we are. Now, I'm the first to say that this doesn't have quite all the features of Microsoft Office. If you're publishing War and Peace, you would have trouble. Okay. But if you look at the options that you have in each category here, this is a very deluxe program. Lots of things, including a very good help system. So that's LibreOffice. The point I'm trying to make really is that you can just sit down and start using this computer, and you'll be right at home unless you have memorized all of the little commands that Microsoft. So we got LibreOffice, we've got some games, Mojang, Minds, Reanimate, Remedy, I don't know what these are. They all are. Rhythm Box is for playing music. Shotwell is a very nice photo editor. Lots of things. Your startup, Sudoku. Mail, okay, Thunderbird. It comes with Thunderbird. I use Thunderbird on Windows and on Ubuntu. It's a great program. I recommend it to everybody. Thunderbird is a non-browser type mail program. It just immediately accesses your mail. You can also, if you're used to webmail, you just bring up Firefox, and you can just go into Google. Google.com, Gmail, and there's my mail in Google. So, I mean, you're not restricted in any way. You want to look at some other things in Google. All the Google programs are there. Photos. This is a photograph of my grandson going to the prom last night that my wife took on a smartphone, and it just magically appears here. Yeah.
Can you use Outlook with this?
Probably no. I think that's a really good no on that one.
Yeah.
Just like try to use.
But there are other. You can use Thunderbird, which does most of the things that Outlook does.
Yes.
The subfolders are a little differently with Outlook and Thunderbird. I don't know how you'd convert them. Well, okay. Let's find out. Let's get rid of this one. Get rid of that one. Distrowatch. Let's see. Suppose you had that question at home. Hang on. Minimize. Right there. Let's look at software. There's whoops, wrong one. A couple of them with the name software. Come on. How about Ubuntu software. There we go. Okay. Just as Microsoft has the Microsoft Store, well, this is sort of the Ubuntu Store. And it breaks it up into different categories, audio and video, communication, productivity, games, so forth. Let's try Outlook. And this screen bugs me a little bit. They don't tell you that if you just start typing O-U-T-L-O-O-K, it brings up a search window. So here we got MailSpring, email client, Wavebox. Ever wanted to get rid of Outlook? DavMail is another one. And Evolution. Let's try this DavMail. If you're curious about this, you can read about it. And you notice how much it costs there. It's a big free program here.
Good for the club.
Ever want to get rid of Outlook? Yeah. See, they're talking about Exchange here. Are you using Exchange with Outlook?
No.
No. Okay, so you probably don't care about this paragraph. I don't know. What I would do is just try it. You can have 5 email programs on your computer and try them all. And any that you don't like, let's suppose that I didn't like, let's see, if we look at the installed programs, let's say I didn't like their calendar. There's a remove button here. Just click the remove button and it takes it off your machine. Simple as that. There are, I think I mentioned it in the handout, there's something like, there's a lot of programs available. I don't see it here. I think it's something like 50,000 files that are available for you to download for free. Yeah.
Bruce, I'm unclear about something. If I want to use Ubuntu and I have a Windows machine, all I have to do is plug in this, whatever you call it, you know, the download file, go to the internet, download Ubuntu, go to that megabytes to the stick, then the Ubuntu's on that stick. Then I go to another computer, plug it in, and open Ubuntu.
Yeah.
If I use Ubuntu on that computer, if I want to just try it.
Sure. Let's running out of time here. So let's see. I want to wrap it up and go give you some more room for a few questions. I was here. This is probably where I was. Fast startup. You can move the launcher anywhere you want. Networking. You can network this to a Windows computer. This Gnome Desktop, this is a techie issue, but the Gnome Desktop replaces Unity for better video compatibility, and it works great. Easy installation, lots of software. You can go to the new video channels for movie trailers. That's new. Let me try demonstrating that if I can.
Do you have yours networked at home to a Windows computer?
Pardon?
Do you have it networked at home to a Windows computer?
Sure. Yeah.
Bruce's 32-bit version discontinued, so that means it would not work on a 32-bit machine.
Right. If you're talking about this particular Ubuntu 1804, it's 64-bit only, and most computers made in the past 5 years are probably 64-bit capable. But if you get a message when it pops up and says you don't have 64 bits available, then you have to download one of the other versions of Ubuntu. And as I scan through here, I do talk about that. Ubuntu, which is what I'm talking about, Ubuntu Mint, which is also a very nice one. In fact, some people consider it a little bit simpler to use. And Ubuntu Mate and KUbuntu, these have these specs. I believe all of these other ones have 32-bit versions. I think it's only the basic Ubuntu that is 64 only. Or you could drop down to Xubuntu, which is will run on an XP computer. Or you could go down to LUbuntu, which would go on a Windows 95 computer. And I've only mentioned 5 or 6 of them. As you saw, there's 100 different versions of Ubuntu. Some of them are for older machines, some of them for newer machines. It's really great. By the way, there are some versions of Ubuntu that you have to pay for. There's one from Novell, one from Red Hat, one from SUSE. And if you have a little business and you're doing this for your business, I recommend getting a paid version, because when you pay for it, you have a phone number and you can call somebody. The support with the one I've been demonstrating, support, let me define the word support. Support means, number one, you can Google it. You can Google the problem. Number two, you can go to the Ubuntu website and you can search their forums for the problem. And in the forum, you can ask questions, and sometimes you'll get an answer. It might take a month, honestly, not necessarily instantaneous. There's no phone number. Okay. Those are a couple ways that it has support. Usually I find the best thing, if I discover a problem with Ubuntu, best thing to do is just to wait a week, because they're constantly upgrading it, and they've got hundreds and maybe even thousands of people debugging these things on the fly, and they get repaired very quickly. Yeah, on.
It says Ubuntu Mint, then it says Linux Mint. Are they different? Or
no, they're not different, but Mint does get a little confusing because there are 2 or 3 varieties of Mint. But I didn't mean that they were. That's my phrasing there. I didn't mean that they were different.
Because I was trying to look at their specs. So Linux Mint is really Ubuntu Mint up on B, 1B. Yeah. So
right.
Linux Mint would require Win 7 specs. Okay.
This is the same as this.
Yeah, I've seen Linux Mint a lot in the work that you and I were collaborating on with the OBS. I see a lot of users have OBS with Linux Mint. OBS is open broadcasting software, for those curious.
Let me give you this link too at the bottom here. If you don't feel like getting involved in burning your own CD-ROM or creating your own stick, you can buy it. This is OS Disk. And if you wanted to buy Linux Mint, you can buy a You can buy it for $5.95, where they send you a DVD. Okay, and this is the 32-bit version of it. They've also got lots of other choices. You can get a 64-bit version for $5.95. So, and you can also get lots of other versions. Or you can go this way and, whoops, let me find one. I'm not finding it. If you scroll down, you can get a USB stick version. So you're getting like a 32 or a 64-bit USB stick with Linux already put on it. And that costs, I think, about $25. But you're getting the stick too, which you can erase and use as a regular stick. In fact, let's see. I don't know.
I think they have a sorter at the top says media.
Thank you.
The third, left side, third down, media, book, USB flash drive. It's a third category down. There you go.
Oh, even better. Look at that. Yeah, on a 16-bit USB flash drive, $14.95. Add to cart. And it's 32-bit. Can we get Ubuntu? Come on.
Just, it's also on the left side, Bruce, if you go up. Oh, you went past it. There's a list of them. Yeah, there you go.
Well, I flipped.
Apparently their sorter's a little.
Media type, install.
No, up above media type. Flash drive.
Oh. There we go. Whoops. Oh, yeah. There you go. That's the one we're talking about. $14.95, so you don't have to do anything. And we're running, by the way, we're running under Ubuntu here, so you can see that it's not particularly slow. Well, that concludes the first half of this presentation. Anybody that wants to stay another couple hours, we can continue. It's a great system, and it's even greater. There's nothing more rewarding than buying an empty hard drive, sticking it in, and having your golden Microsoft hard disk sitting on your desk where it's perfectly safe and you can just play. You don't have to worry about anything. In fact, what I did with this machine, well, yeah, let me just, I'm going to turn the computer off and show you something, but does anybody have any questions where I need the screen?
That's a Windows machine, right, that you're on?
Well, it was originally, yeah.
Oh, it was.
Yeah.
If you have the 64-bit and you just go plug it into any computer like a 32-bit, can you still read the files?
Oh no, only if that machine accepts
64.
64 bits.
Right.
But if it does accept 64 bits, and as I say, most machines made in the past 5 years do so.
Yeah.
Basically, any dual-core processor will accept 64-bit.
Mm.
Then you can read the Windows files, even if the Windows version was 32-bit.
Yeah. I think there's a site someplace that enables you to put in the model of laptop or other computer you have and tell you if it's compatible. I think I tried it once. I think mine was not. It was an Acer.
Yeah, and there are also some sites that give you a test program that you can load yourself under Windows. But before anybody leaves, I just want to show you this computer. Let me disconnect the tables. This is a little computer here.
A little one. Wow.
And wait, I have this. Okay. There's. Can everybody see here? This is it's the guts of the computer. And what I have here, I have a 5.5-inch hard drive, which happens to have Windows on it. And what I did, I pulled the two cables off that drive, and I have a 3.5-inch hard drive, very similar to this one. And I have it taped on here with painter's tape, the blue painter's tape. Okay. And that's what we've been running on. There's one cable, and there's the other cable. So you just take those two cables out, and you move them from one drive to the other, and you have your Windows versus your Ubuntu. It's that easy.
Why don't you use solid state drive? It'd be so much faster.
Well, when I built this, they were a little more expensive. I didn't mention the numbers, but a 64 gig solid state drive works very nicely with Ubuntu. You can even use it with smaller ones. I've used it with 40 gigabyte drives, but I've recently seen 128 gig solid state drives for $50.
Right.
The prices keep coming down and down and down.
And the other point is, everything you said, Bruce, works equally well on Mac machine. Because you can do everything Bruce has said on a Mac. I've done it on a Mac.
That is fantastic. I don't have any experience at all on that.
So you're saying you take a MacBook Pro.
I'm sorry?
You're saying you take a MacBook Pro, maybe an old one, and you can run Linux on it.
Well, I don't know about an old one, but one's, say, from 2012 on. Because the Mac software is ultimately Linux anyway.
Yeah, sure. Here, if you could do me a favor, just hook the whole pack on the back table.
Oh, okay.
No,
Not that.
And Bruce, you put that computer together, that little one?
No, this is a commercial. This is a Lenovo desktop computer.
Say it again.
This is a Lenovo
Lenovo
desktop computer. This is their standard computer.
Let's give Bruce a round of applause, and he can ask more questions. Thank you very much. If you have more questions, just stay and ask.